Hello and welcome. Oh, we have got a dog on the show. Look at this. A new addition to the Talking Jet. Which one was that?
That was 𝐒𝐿𝐞𝐞.
𝐒𝐿𝐞𝐞 came in hot. The intro is running down, and I look down at Jeremy, and I just see
I was being attacked by 𝐒𝐿𝐞𝐞.
I love it. You must be a quarterback then. If you're
and now Jolene is protecting me and attacking him and all over him.
Oh, that's fantastic. What's going on? Matt O'Leary with Jets Chaos. Jeremy here on Talking Jets. Full transparency for those watching, we both forgot about the show yesterday. That was one of the funnier things that has ever happened. I in an absolute panic sweat texted Jeremy at like 4:05 and said, "Oh my God, we forgot the show today."
We've been doing this for a while. I'm not sure exactly how long, but in all the time we've been doing it, only once did I forget. And then you sent me the link. Mm-hmm. So I said, oh shit, but I still had 40 minutes. So it wasn't a problem. And I was able to adjust. Yesterday was really odd because we both, honestly, if you didn't reach out to me and say we forgot to do the show, I would still probably not be aware of it. I don't know what happened. I just forgot.
You know, all day yesterday in the morning, I was talking to Taylor, my fiance, and I was like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like a Thursday. I'm like, this just does not feel like a Thursday. And then I was doing other stuff. I was busy. I had a doctor appointment in the morning. And then afternoon rolls around. I'm like, I just felt so dumb. But anyway, moral of the story, we are here with you on a Friday afternoon, closing you out before the start of the weekend. And since the last time we spoke, Jeremy, I know it's been a few days since this trade has gone through now, but the Jets have Davante Adams. And I think there's like most Jet fans, not all, because there's some just really upset Jet fans who are going to be mad at everything, but most people are very excited. But the national side, I feel like, is very mixed. You have about half saying this is good, this is going to be exciting for the Jets, he's going to help so much. And then the other side feels like they're just going to do, the typical, we're going to dunk on the Jets and say, this doesn't fix your problem. Can he block for Rodgers, or can he play on the defensive line? And that's where I'm having a hard time with it. I think I'm getting a little frustrated with the other side of the coin that's being so down on this move.
Yeah, I don't think the truth lives at either extreme. I mean, I think the truth is somewhere in the middle of those two scenarios, right? I think that it doesn't solve all of our problems, but at the same time, anyone that doesn't think that this is a better football team with Davante Adams on it is stupid. And, I don't mean to be mean, but I mean, it's just factual. Like, if you don't recognize that adding a player of Davante Adams caliber to any team makes them a better football team, it's just stupid. Now, if you have a team that doesn't have any good receivers, it's not as much of a help, because if it's like a team like New England that's really weak, you key him, you take him out of the game, and you're still beating a team like New England. The difference is we have Garrett Wilson. And getting a receiver like Davante Adams when you have a Garrett Wilson is very dangerous and creates a very interesting problem for the teams that we're playing against. It brings us up to, we get to present the same problem to teams that the Miami Dolphins and Cincinnati Bengals have, in the past presented. We're presenting a problem of, who are you going to double cover?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think Roger has a really good comment here saying the truth will set Garrett Wilson free. And the truth in this instance is Davante Adams, because as you just rightfully pointed out, teams early on in the year did a really good job of taking Garrett Wilson out of the game as much as they could. They would double team him. They put a safety over the top, and that made things really difficult for this Jets offense. Now, the last 2 weeks, they've done a much better job. And Garrett Wilson's gone over 100 yards and the whole thing. But now you add Davante in the mix, and as a result, you're pushing guys like Mike Williams, who made a catastrophic mistake at the end of the game on Monday night, and you're pushing guys like Allen Lazard, who, as we know, had a really nice game. No denying that on Monday, but is very inconsistent and still has a ton of issues with drops. You're pushing guys like that down the depth chart and down on the target share. So I don't view this as like Davante's going to come in, he's going to get 20 targets every single game, and now Garrett Wilson's going to get 3 and have like 2 catches for 25 yards. I don't see that happening. I just see it as more of an even split between the two. Instead of Garrett Wilson having the 23 targets he had against Minnesota, I don't know, maybe Davante's getting 14 and Garrett Wilson's getting 10 of those. And I think that's more than functional for this offense.
Well, we're going to find out about Garrett Wilson's character. If a good football character means all you care about is winning, and I think it's going to flip flop back and forth. Like, I honestly believe there'll be days where now you're going to see Davante Adams go off and have 2 touchdowns and 120 yards receiving, 130 yards, whatever. And Garrett Wilson might only have 50. And then all of a sudden the next week, Garrett Wilson's going to have 130 yards and Davante Adams is only going to have 60 or 70. It's just going to depend on who's open, who's covering them, the way the game unfolds. But as long as Aaron Rodgers keeps the mindset of throw it to the open guy. And we know he's not afraid to do that because we've seen the flip-flopping between Allen Lazard and Garrett Wilson. He has been throwing it to the open guy. And sometimes that means a lot. That has meant a lot of Lazard. And sometimes it's meant more recently a lot of Garrett Wilson. And I think now it's going to be a mix of a lot of Davante Adams. And we're going to have 3 receivers. I think it's interesting, but Allen Lazard is certainly usurped or whatever you say, whatever that word is, Michael Williams, but maybe because Rodgers feels more comfortable with him for whatever reason. But I think the exciting thing is we've seen Aaron Rodgers connecting to Garrett Wilson as of late really well. We know he connects really well to Davante, and he's always connected well to Allen Lazard. So he has 3 receivers, not only that are really good. Allen Lazard is good because of Aaron Rodgers. What at the end of the day, he has 3 receivers that he feels incredibly comfortable with. He understands them, and and it's going to be incredibly dangerous and make our offense very dangerous. As long as, of course, we provide him some time.
That's the biggest key. They got to provide him the time. But as you mentioned, the connection that, 2 of the 3 with Davante and Allen Lazard, with all the years they've played with Rodgers, the connection that they have, I think is really important. And I know it feels cliche to bring that up all the time, but this offense, especially the passing offense, is so linked to timing on these routes and on these passes. Everyone has to be on the same page. If one guy's in the wrong spot, it messes up the whole thing. And maybe that's a flaw in your offense. That's probably a conversation for another day, but that's just the reality of the situation, is that the offense is very timing based and everyone needs to be on the same page. And it was very, very clear they weren't getting that. And Garrett Wilson is getting up to speed in that area. He's got, 3 touchdowns in the last 4 games. He's gone over 100 yards in each of the last 2 games. He's been really good against, Buffalo and Minnesota here. And then you add someone of Davante Adams' caliber, it only elevates that offense a little bit more. And we haven't spoke since the Jets-Bills game, so I want to get your impact or get your thought rather on Todd Downing's impact on this the play calling and this offense, and what you think that has to do with this going forward.
Look, it was obviously a big impact. We only complained, I think, on 1 series, and as fans, we're always going to complain, right?
Yeah.
If someone said you're complaining because it didn't work, well, hell yeah. Right. I mean, that's just being a football fan. When and it's every team. You could have the best offensive coordinator in football, and you're still, when things don't work and it falls apart a drive, you're still sitting there saying, why did he call that play? He should have called this or he should have called that. But the reality was, when you look at the big picture and you look back at the play calling was very good, even in the red zone. The problem in the red zone was execution. It was not bad play calling, not at all. So, and it was also a referee taking away a touchdown from us, which was disgusting. And that happened. So I'm very excited about having a play caller that is not just a Aaron Rodgers yes man. You can tell that it felt more like a quarterback being coached by an offensive coordinator and following a game plan created by an offensive coordinator. And that's what we need. The best analogy I can think of is, when our movie actors die their careers, when they try to be the director of their own movies, like Eddie Murphy, for example, right? Biggest freaking megastar movie star there was until he started trying to do his own movies. So it's the same thing. It's like Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback when he has an offensive coordinator that could just come up with a good game plan and he follows it.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a really good way to look at it. And for me, the biggest thing that I liked that Todd Downing did was the increase of the use of motion. It was an astronomical difference. Over 70% of plays in this game against Buffalo, they used motion on, where the first 5 weeks of the year, it was in the 40%, and they were like 30th or 31st in the league in motion rate. And then just looking at week 7, they were top 10. I believe it was 7th overall in motion usage. And that's something that Downing did a lot in Tennessee, and it worked really well there, especially that first year. And I just thought it was really refreshing. They left so many points on the board in this game too. One, if 𝐒𝐻𝐿ine just hits his 2 field goals, then it's 26 points the Jets offense puts up and not 20. That looks like a big difference. But then we also have to take into account the all-pro tackle you brought in free agency had another penalty down on the goal line. And sure, maybe we could question the validity of the holding call, but it's the not executing, which is something that you brought up as an issue. I agree. I don't think it was the play calling in that game that was the problem. It was not capitalizing on your opportunities. 2 Greg Zuerlein missed field goals and a holding call, one of 11 penalties against the Jets that really hurt them in that spot.
And you know what? I don't have a problem with that holding call if you're consistent. My complaint is that, and we watched it and we were calling it out, is that Buffalo was doing the same thing, the same level of holding. It's like it was one of those kind of things where it wasn't completely 100% what made the play work. Like, oh, it wouldn't have been a touchdown if he didn't hold. It wasn't that kind of thing. And we were watching on the other side of it. We were watching our guys being held on running plays where there was no flag. So it's kind of like an umpire with the strike zone. You got to be consistent. If you establish a consistent strike zone or a consistent what is holding for that game, this is what the referees are calling, that's fine. But when we're watching the rules change for both teams, that's when it becomes ugly and disgusting. And that's why, in my mind, that game was partly taken away from us by the refs. But at the end of the day, we have to win with enough cushion that the referees can't take away the game from us. That's our responsibility as a team. Understanding that if you leave a game close, that you're leaving yourself susceptible to a bad call. And this team definitely self-imploded. We were our own worst enemy. If we make those kicks, if we get rid of some of those penalties that were just silly, that were penalties on us and were stupid ones, it's a completely different football game. We could have won that game by 13 points.
Yeah, it would have changed a lot of things, and that's definitely frustrating. And I love the example that you brought up with the umpire, because I was going to say, it's like if you have an umpire who's not giving you the outside pitch all day, and you're laying off of it, and he's calling it a ball, and then your last at bat he punches you out on a pitch that's an inch off the plate, you're going to be frustrated because that's not what was established the entirety of the game, and that really lies the issue. And to be fair here, and I'm not saying you were saying this, but just in general, the officiating was horrible for Buffalo too. There were a lot of missed calls on both sides of the field, and Rodgers complained about the roughing the passer that was called against him. I thought that was really soft. I think most people would agree that was the case.
Very soft.
On that final drive, I'm still not convinced that wasn't a fumble, but obviously retaining possession at that, like, there was just a bunch of weird things in this game. But going forward, I thought there was things to build off of, and at the same time, I am kind of tired of talking about silver linings and losses with this team. That's not how it was supposed to be this year. They're supposed to be winning football games, but there were a lot of signs on offense that I think were positives. And then, looping this back to the Davante Adams conversation, when you add in a player of this caliber, I think that only elevates it. I don't think it, necessarily takes anything away. And for Garrett, you got to mention too, he came from Ohio State, where they had like 4 awesome receivers in that receiving room. It was Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Marvin Harrison, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. And there was plenty of opportunities for all 4 of them to get reps and to get, targets. So I personally don't see him being upset with the number of targets that he's getting, just based on, kind of what his life was like in college.
I think Garrett Wilson really wants to win. If we beat Pittsburgh, which is really the big question, and we haven't beat a tough team this year. So I know, and I'm not saying Pittsburgh are world beaters. They're not world beaters. They've looked very suspect as well. Some of their games they have not looked that good at all, but they're the best. We haven't beat a team better than them. Like, in other words, if we beat Pittsburgh, that's the best team we've beaten all season. So what's so significant about that, and I've lost a lot of desire to put my hopes in this team because they just keep killing us and breaking our hearts. So I've kind of I'm just going to go game by game and sit there and watch and root for my team. But like I've put aside the expectations and the hopes. But the truth is, if they manage to win that game against Pittsburgh, New England is next. And we obviously very realistically will be 4-4 and have a fresh start. And not only be 4-4 at the fresh start, but because we play Buffalo again, probably control our own destiny. Like probably still have a chance at the division because of the fact that we play Buffalo. And if we keep winning, we'll probably have the opportunity to like pull within a game of them before we play them again. So it really matters if Davante Adams is just it's more than just what he does. It's about confidence for Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers, this could be what sets Aaron Rodgers off, right? This could get whatever like little thing that's holding him back because he keeps like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. This could be the thing that that makes it 3 steps forward. And we can finally, so.
That's right. And I thought he had a good game. I know he ended with the interception there and just, it was a frustrating on that final drive, but he still went 23 of 35, 294 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 99 passer rating. I was impressed with his play. And I think if he plays like that every week, and maybe that's a tough ask, but if he plays more often than not that way, I think the Jets can win a lot of games. But, going into this matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers, as you pointed out, it's not going to be easy. Going on the road and beating Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh is tough. Russell Wilson's more than likely, George Pickens essentially confirmed it today that Russell Wilson will be starting this game. But they are like really the polar opposite of the Jets because all their games are ugly, but they find ways to win. They're the ones who find a way to win the 15-10 game. They're not on the wrong side of those losing. You know what I mean?
That's the definition of a great coach.
Yeah.
It's and they are not the best roster. They're rebuilding it. They're rebuilding their offensive line and they're working on it. They haven't really found the quarterback. Maybe they have. We'll see how Russell Wilson does for them because of their elite coaching and ability to bring the best out of quarterbacks, because we saw that with Justin Fields. But the reality is they're just, if you want to look and you want a sample or an example of what great coaching is, look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is a spectacular coach. He gets the best out of his players. They're disciplined. You probably, if you are a Pittsburgh fan or you talk to a Pittsburgh fan, they'll tell you rarely see the same guys making the same mistakes over and over again. They rarely implode. That's just a well-coached team. And that's, the frustrating part of all this, the frustrating part of having talent, not being able to win when you could clearly see that you're being outcoached and say, I do not blame Jeff Ulbrich, and I am not going to sit there and judge him on the Buffalo game and people already are saying, how come where's the accountability? It's still missing. He was the coach for 6 days before that game. It is absolutely ridiculous to think he could change the culture or do anything in 6 days that you could sit there and blame him. As a matter of fact, his decision to make Downing call the plays is why the game was close. And why, if there's any spark of hope that this team is going to now win some games, it's because of that decision. So to me, Jeff Ulbrich hasn't done anything wrong. The penalties are going to take more time. You can't just switch your coach and think that magically is going to be fixed. It's going to take time to discipline this team and turn that part of the ship around.
Yeah, we're talking about a 1-game sample size with Ulbrich versus a 56-game sample size with Robert Saleh. It's a little bit different, and you're right to bring up that point. I want to go into some of the comments in here while we're talking. Say hello to everyone. Adrian says Davante Adams runs the right routes. Rodgers and Adams master the back shoulder pass, and that kind of goes along with what we were saying chemistry wise with this duo. I think it's important for the two of them to be on the same page. And what I compared it to was, I think it's going to be like riding a bicycle. Like this isn't something you forget or just magically like goes away. They played together for so long. He had 95% of the hand signals down on like 6 hours since he landed and being a New York Jet. Maybe it's me just being naive and, maybe coping a little bit, but I really do think that he can kind of just step right in and pick up exactly where they left off.
Oh, I have no doubt about it. A connection like that is a connection. And, it hasn't been 10 years. It's been a few years. And, one practice, and we saw it. I sent you a clip of already that beautiful pass he threw to Davante Adams. And that doesn't happen with a new guy that comes in that you don't have chemistry with. That was completely, they know each other. They know what the other one's going to do. He knows his speed. It's like riding a bike. When it's Davante Adams, he knows his speed and where he's going to be and where to throw the ball. And I think that he was showing that the last couple of weeks with Garrett Wilson. I think that was starting to happen. I think they were starting to gel. That's why I'm so excited, because it's not just two guys. Allen Lazard has become significant because, especially now with another premier receiver, now that you have Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams, Allen Lazard's going to be a real problem because he's also connected to Aaron Rodgers. And aside from the drops, he's been excellent. So that's going to be a real problem for teams because they're going to be using safeties to cover him.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. I mean, so it's exciting. It's really exciting. I think one of the things that nobody talks about is Davante Adams probably the first, he's going to bring back something we haven't seen in a long time on this team. And that is, when's the last time we had a player as good at just a straight out go route, like a bomb, where you could throw a 40, 50-yard pass downfield in stride to a player that's 3 steps ahead of their defender? That's Davante Adams. Have we had a player that does that? Have we had that threat? Davante Adams is that threat. Even on the Raiders with no quarterback, I was watching plays like that where they just hurl it, down the field, and there he is coming either on a cross route or straight up route, touchdown. And having having one of those every game or almost every game where you just get 7 points automatically from one play like that is a huge boost to the offense. And then what does the defense have to do the rest of the game after a play like that takes place? Because now you have them having to play back because they're afraid of getting burned again. So that's going to be tremendous, having that part of our playbook. And I really hope they make that part of our playbook. It'd be very hard to believe we're not going to see deep downfield passes to Davante Adams.
Yeah, that would be pretty shocking if that was the case. I don't think. I will say though, the big thing, they can't get the ball down the field if they don't start pass protecting better. Because Rodgers has been, to his credit, he's gotten the ball out quick. I believe it's the second in the NFL in time to throw. So he is getting it out very, very quickly. But it's hard for those long developing plays when, Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses and Elijah Vera Tucker and a lot of these guys are struggling right now.
Yeah, they're not giving him a lot of time. And, it's like, and it's one of those things where we could be having success, but it only takes 1 3rd and 5, for them to fail, to give him the protection he needs and just kill a drive, or even 2nd and 8 and he goes back to pass, and now it's 3rd and 16 and he's banged up, Aaron Rodgers, because someone like Moses or someone like Tyron Smith didn't block and he had no time to get rid of the ball. So all the other plays might look fine, but it only takes 1 play to kill a drive. Yep. So we need consistency. We need efficiency. Like, they have to block play to play. Like, there'll be sacks sometimes, but it can't be, we're not going to be as deadly or dangerous if that's going to happen more often than not, if he's going to be having to, throw the ball away or anything. But if they protect him really well and are very efficient, we're unstoppable. That's the difference.
What do you make of this Dano comment? He says, I don't buy the Pickens thing. They easily could have had him do that intentionally, or the entire team might not have been officially told yet either. Never know with Mike, meaning Mike Tomlin. Do you buy that this is all smokescreen, including the George Pickens comments from earlier today, and that Fields is going to continue to start?
If I'm the coach of the Jets, I prepare for both. And what's good is it's if you prepare for Fields, what's the difference? Russell Wilson has caused problems with his feet. So all you do, so even if you prepare for a guy that could hurt you with his legs, is it that bad to be really prepared for when Russell Wilson plays? And if we decide that Russell Wilson doesn't warrant a spy, okay, it's not the end of the world if we have a plan that says, if you can have both things. You could have a plan that says when Fields is playing, there's a spy. And that's what you're going to be doing, Quincy Williams. And if it's Russell Wilson, we don't need you to be a spy. We need to do our jobs and seal our edge like any quarterback. We can't do what 𝐒𝐭𝐿 𝐶lemons did and fall for it and abandon our post and leave an open lane for the quarterback to run. We have to seal the edge, and that's normal doing your job. So I don't think it matters that much. I hope as a coach, I wouldn't make it the focus of my defense or be distracted by it. I would prepare for a game plan for either one, saying if it's Fields, you got to spy him. If it's not Fields, I don't think you have to spy Russell Wilson, but you have to be very careful about sealing the edges.
You do. You absolutely do, which is something they struggled with against Josh Allen in that game, for sure. Remember when, oh God, going back to dark times, but remember when the Jets didn't prepare for Baker Mayfield and then the Browns put him in like the second quarter and he had that epic comeback in Darnold's rookie year? How
he was. I thought he was the next Dan Marino. He looked like
awesome.
He's going to be the greatest quarterback of our generation in that game. He came in and was throwing bullets into people's chest. And I said, oh my God, Cleveland finally found a quarterback. But yeah, I remember that. We were completely unprepared. And I think that, that was like, that's an example of just poor coaching. Like, rookie comes in. You should be able to on the fly, just like it's you have a playbook. When a rookie comes in, you blitz the rookie. The number one rule is a rookie should never feel comfortable. Like the way to beat a rookie is to keep them uncomfortable. Like make it the opposite of what it was in college. Because 95% of the time, a rookie that was drafted in the draft high as a quarterback came from a team in a situation where in the majority of his games, he was very comfortable. He was on a superior team, crushing opponents, and was very comfortable. So what do? You make them very uncomfortable. And we didn't do that day. I remember that game, and we didn't make Baker Field uncomfortable at all.
Do you remember who started that game for Cleveland at quarterback?
Tyrod
Taylor, baby. It all comes back to the Jets.
And he was not good that night.
No.
We were crushing him, which is why I tell people he's a good backup. Anytime people say, oh, bring him in, or if Rodgers retires, we could just go with Tyrod Taylor. No, we can't. He is a backup quarterback. He is not the answer for QB1.
If you need him to give you 3 games when your quarterback goes down, you're good with that.
Right.
But it's not.
Right. You don't automatically lose because, it's not the problem of, oh, we have no quarterback. We're definitely done. We're smoked. No, he gives you a chance to still win the game, but he's not the guy you want starting.
No, he's probably like, I don't know what, on his best day, maybe quarterback 25, but in the range 25 to 40, in that range for if you're ranking quarterbacks, something like that.
Yeah, most likely. Depending on the matchup and everything. Yeah.
Super chat from our guy Oreo says Rams went all in. Why doesn't JD give a first for MG? Who's MG? Who am I? Myles Garrett? Is that who he's thinking of?
I don't know why. Is Cleveland really dumping house? There's salary implications for that. We can't just bring anybody in because, I mean, you could always restructure and find a way, but the issue with that is you have to understand that we are committed to paying Aaron Rodgers like $60+ million, $65 million in 2026. And we have a lot of good young players. So every time there's all in and then there's suicide. Like every time you bring in a player now that you have to restructure a contract for, that's who you're throwing away, who you letting walk, because that's what it's becoming. Every big name you bring in that you're going to sign long term, I promise you, is a player we have to part ways with. So there's a limit to all in. I think getting Davante Adams was our move. And I think we tried with Haason Reddick and it just wasn't happening.
Yeah, my only I don't think it's going to be someone of the caliber of Myles. Would I love Myles Garrett on the Jets? Yes, obviously. He's a phenomenal player. His contract, here we can pop this up. If you look at it, I don't know if you're able to see, but I could zoom it in a little bit here. His cap hit this year is $20.1 million, which obviously that's not what the Jets would be. Now, a lot of his money is signing bonus, so his base salary is lower, but Cleveland would take on a massive dead cap hit over the next few years if they did that. And I think it would be more than just a first round pick. I think you're talking like multiple first round picks to get an elite edge rusher, like a top 3 edge rusher in the sport.
Well, they would have to, because the cap hit for them through time would be like devastating. Like it would be crippling for them. And I while I do think that they have a problem with Deshaun Watson, I understand why they're unloading the receivers. I don't think they're in full strip the roster rebuild mode. I think they're in. They got to figure out, are they going to move forward with Deshaun Watson? And I think that I think that getting rid of Amari Cooper was just accepting that they're not going to compete this season. I don't know that they're giving in on their overall good defense and their opportunity for next season. Like, I don't think that's that kind of thing where they're stripping their team for a 5-year rebuild. I think that they're getting rid of guys that they weren't going to bring back anyway, maybe because of money, freeing up money, and they're going to retool. And their big problem is Deshaun Watson, but I don't think they're going to like just trash the team over it. I just don't see that.
They're gonna ride that wave, I think, for just like however long they have to. I think it's this year and next year, and then maybe they can get out of it. But I think they're just gonna eat it for the rest of this year, 2025 probably as well, and then retool it from there. But they don't really have a choice in the matter because they gave them all this guaranteed money. It's their own dumb fault.
Right. And it's like, and to me, that's just not giving away Myles Garrett. He's like you need to keep fans in the seats. You need to, even when you're rebuilding, you need to give hope that, and their defense is too good to just totally throw it out the window, because you never know. They got picks now, right? Maybe they get rid of a couple of more guys. I mean, who knows? But you don't know what they're going to do. They got rid of Cooper. Maybe they freed up some money. Maybe they're going to do what Pittsburgh did and find some kind of value kind of quarterback to bring in. Maybe they bring in Sam Darnold. I don't know if they're ready to admit that Deshaun Watson was a mistake, or they run it back with Deshaun Watson and just try to use that money for a younger receiver, or who knows, and put different weapons around Deshaun and hope that works. But I just don't see them. I see them tanking this year. I just don't see them giving up on what they have, because they still have this defense that Myles Garrett is in charge of, like he's the captain of.
Absolutely. Got a few more super chats in here, so we'll keep rocking with them. City Bert says, sliding doors moment. What happens if we got Carr? I don't know. He wasn't good last year and he's hurt now. So I don't know how much better it would have been. Maybe if he's healthy and played at the level that he did last year, is it better than what they had? Yeah, they're probably not going 7-10. Maybe they make the playoffs.
Well, last year, if he doesn't get hurt, yeah, I mean, I think Derek Carr makes us probably a playoff team. But I mean, first, there was no way to know that was going to happen to Rodgers, so that's not on anyone. It's just bad luck. But Derek Carr is not that good if he's under pressure and not being blocked for. Like, I think that Aaron Rodgers, when you think of how many touchdowns we have as a team, with how bad the offensive line has been, and it hasn't been bad individual stats as much as people would think, but we see it with our eyes, right? I mean, he's getting killed. He's getting crushed. They haven't been consistent. There have been games where he just has no time. He's under duress all the time. I don't think Derek Carr would be any better in those situations. We need to fix is it's not Aaron Rodgers. Like that last interception he threw, PFF didn't even consider it a turnover throw. They gave him 0 turnover type throws. They didn't count that against him at all. That was Mike Williams running the wrong route and not being where he was supposed to be. That was 100% not on Aaron Rodgers. So I just don't know if Carr would be functioning any better with what we've provided this year, which is just not enough pass protection and no running game, right? I mean, that's been a big villain the last bunch of weeks until last, between the New England game and the Buffalo game, there was no running game. So Derek Carr, no quarterback is going to be good in that situation.
Jonathan Moore has a super chat, also says, let's just trade for everyone's best players.
as if there was no salary cap.
Yeah, and there's a very fine line, because Oreo fouls it up, and we'll do these two together. I appreciate the super chat, City Bert, Jonathan. and a few from Oreo as well. Salary cap is a myth. How do the Rams do it? There's a middle ground. It's not so much. People are way too concerned with the salary cap, I think, and are like very against paying essentially anyone, which I don't get. But there's a fine line because you have to pay the piper at some point. You could kick the can down the line for only so long.
And the Rams didn't have as many young stars, superstars that they were going to have to lose by doing it. Like if you look at their situation, it's different. They were in a position where they did have to reset. That's why they're not good right now, and they're not really a Super Bowl contender. It was worth it because they got the Lombardi Trophy. Yeah. They got it, but you have to understand, if we go all in, it has to be responsible enough that you can't. I mean, unless you don't want to give away everything and say everything hinges on getting the trophy this year, and if we don't, then we lost our chance for the next 3 or 4 years. They didn't have a Garrett Wilson, a Breece Hall, a Jermaine Johnson, a AVT, a list of players, Reed, that that a lot of them you're going to want to re-sign. And if you just go all into the point where you're just bringing in everyone that you want, the reality is the salary cap is not a myth. Those teams, you might not see it, but at some point you're not able to re-sign the players you want because of the moves you're making. Yeah, New Orleans is not in good shape right now, and a lot of that has to do with what they did. They went all in, and they didn't get their Super Bowl, and now they're crap.
They're stuck in the middle. That's their problem. They're stuck in this mushy middle. And also what helped the Rams too is after they had that reset, and they were all hurt in 2022, they also drafted incredibly well last year. They didn't have a first-round pick, but they found, like all from rounds 2 to 7, Steve Avila, Kobe Turner, Puka Nacua, obviously the big one in the 5th round. They hit on a lot of guys, which got them back quicker than anyone anticipated. They were a playoff team last year, and they're really good. This year, they've been decimated by injuries again, and they're in a really tough spot. There with a 1-4 start, but McVay is a great coach. He had that roster while it took a hit, and they had to move off of a lot of guys. Like I'm trying to think of the corner who's in Miami now. I can't think of his name. Jalen Ramsey was someone that they brought in for the short run.
They couldn't give up on him. Yeah, if I had a crystal ball, Oreo, and said blow up the whole team and lose all these young stars for the future, but get a Super Bowl, sure, I do that in that week. But remember, it's not guaranteed you're going to get the Super Bowl because we've watched this team get tons of talent. It doesn't change the thing. So it's like I'm even worried, is Davante Adams going to make a difference? I think he should. On paper, he should. Everything in my brain says he is what he is. It's going to make a difference. But how many times have we thought that as Jet fans, and it made no difference? The Rams had a great coach. We don't. I mean, I'm hoping
unproven.
We have an unproven coach, so we don't know what we have. But it's like there's more to the story. Every team is different in a different situation. I know that, yes, I want, and I'm happy we got Davante Adams, and I feel like we are going all in with the responsibility of not just saying we're guaranteed going to screw the future. And screwing the future means putting ourselves in a position where we're going to lose all of the young studs. I don't want to lose those young studs. I want Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson. I want guys like that to be the core for the next 8 years, and then continually be able to build around them and take shots.
That's the plan. That should be the plan, at least. We have an incredible message from our guy Green Bean here. He says, at Talkin' Jets, tell Jeremy I had the chicken Big Mac because of him. It was glorious. He liked it. You did your review as well. So what's the take?
I am so happy that Green Bean said that. So it gives me the opportunity to plug this. Later on today, I'm going to release it. I just recorded it. I have to take my wife somewhere. It's her birthday, so it's a busy day. But there's going to be a few hours in between where she has some things she's doing that I'm going to edit it and set it up. So on Brooklyn Brothers Food Review, I did a Big Mac versus the chicken Big Mac review. And I had both and compared them. So it's funny that Green Bean just had it because I'm literally, it's in my stomach right now. If I burp
down bad at the beginning of the show, I said, "Hey Jeremy, how you doing?" He's like, "I'm in a rough spot right now."
I was like, I hope I can make it through the show because I just ate a regular Big Mac and a chicken Big Mac.
You maniac. Oh, goodness. But glad I'm very excited to watch this review, and I'm glad that Green Bean liked it. You're inspiring people out here, Jeremy, as always.
Well, the whole point of the review is to tell you, because it's limited time, is it worth running to McDonald's to get?
And you say, I don't want, don't
You
spoil it.
have to watch the review.
Don't,
You
you
have
got to watch
to
the review. Green Bean, it seems like you're saying, yes, it was worth it. So if you trust Green Bean, then there you go. Okay. How about this? We'll go to Dano. Do either of you want to share your Fireman Ed phase out take?
Man,
Any thoughts?
I hate shit like that because it's just so meaningless to the whole thing. Look, I think that I don't want Fireman Ed to rely on the Diamond Vision and the Jets. I don't even want them touching it anyway. I don't like so if anything bothered me, it's not that phasing him out or whether they show him or not. It's showing other people and trying to create it. It is not, it does not belong to the New York Jets. Fireman Ed belongs to the fans in the sense that he's for us. He's a fan. I don't need them involved. He, without any Diamond Vision, without any screen, back in the day when I was a kid, I don't know how he did it. His brother lifted him up. He caught the hearts of the other fans. He became a leader, and he created this great part of being at a Jet game. You know, this great culture of leading this Jets chant. That's what it is. If so, I have no objection. I don't care if they show him or not, or if the organization is involved in it or not. As a matter of fact, stay out of it. But showing other people and trying to give other people equal billing as if they're also part of it when they've done nothing to earn it, when he earned it completely organically, is annoying as shit to me.
So they didn't always show him on the Jumbotron, right? From day one. There was definitely a time where he didn't, and the Jets chance still got going.
They caught on to something that he did.
Right. So my solution would be Fireman Ed just needs to get up on the platform and start doing it. And the people in his section will see him and then get in on the JETS. But then when the rest of the crowd hears the chant start, that's when you go, oh, it's time. You know, it's not like a silent thing that no one's going to be able to see if you don't put it up on the Jumbotron. Like, I think we could still get the Jet chant going. If Fireman Ed gets up on his perch there and you know, turns to his section of the crowd and starts doing the, you know, the dance with the letters and that's how you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's up to, at the end of the day, we're in control of it. They can do whatever they want. I know who I'm looking at to do my Jets chant.
Same.
Yeah. So
the City Birds back says MetLife is awful. Can't believe World Cup final is there. It really can't be stated enough, Jeremy, how horrible MetLife Stadium is in comparison. Like, it's not even that old, but look at the buildings that were built from the mid 2000s to now, and every single other stadium in the NFL is gorgeous. And this just looks like the most basic bitch cookie cutter vanilla generate a stadium on Madden type of a feel. And then on top of that too, the turf, no matter what surface they play on, they change it every 2 years, but it still sucks and everyone continues to get hurt. So I don't think it can be stressed enough.
What makes it a double slap in the face and double disgusting is the fact that it's two owners together, two owners together, two multi-millionaires together that are making shitloads of money. Couldn't build us a better stadium. I mean, if you're going to build a piece of shit stadium, at least do it separately. Build two piece of shit stadiums and each have your own stadium. But if you're going to combine and we're going to have to share a stadium, shouldn't it be the stadium? Shouldn't it
be like SoFi?
You have the New York name. I don't care if you're in Jersey because it's right by New York and by the bridges and the tunnel, right? I mean, we could argue that all day. I don't care. It's like I'm used to it being Jersey, New York, whatever. It's a team that both states share. But like if you're going to have New York next to your name, have some freaking pride.
Yep.
Like a New York stadium should be a stadium that people are proud of, that we should be the city on the hill. We should be what other people look up to, not come to New York and see our dump of a stadium. It's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing. We have a very, very important question that could change the future of our relationship here, Jeremy, depending on your answer. Johnny Boy says, what does the panel think about the wave? Should it be a thing?
I don't like it so much because I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it in baseball a little bit more than I am in football. Football, I'm focused, man. The game is moving. There's always strategy to think about. What are we doing next? It's like, even though there's pauses, you're thinking, like, what are we going to do? It's 3rd and 7. You're thinking about possibilities. It's like, I don't got time to fucking get up and do a wave. Baseball gets boring as shit. If it's 6-0, you're sitting there in the 5th inning and nothing's happening. And it's like, especially when I was a kid and Rick Sutcliffe is pitching, who used to take 5 minutes between each pitch because there was no rule to control him and force him to throw the ball. I mean, fine, do your wave. I couldn't care less. Maybe I'll even do it a little, but like in a football game, leave it alone, bro. I don't need it. I don't want it. I don't care about it.
I don't like it I don't like it in football. I don't like it in baseball. There is much more time in between. Like you said, for me in my childhood, it was Steve Traxel, who took like 45 minutes in between pitches. He was another one, but I can't stand. It's like the 7th inning, bottom of the 7th, you're down a run, and the whole team go, "Oh, we gotta stand up and do the way." Lock in, man. We're here to get some runs across the board. It's not for me. I am not a wave guy. I don't think we have to do things that distract us from the game. Go to the ballpark, go to the stadium, watch the football game, watch the baseball game, and there we go. That's my take on it. So I'm glad that you have the same concern.
Yeah.
John Harrington says, "Why did the West Side Stadium fail?" Do you remember? I was pretty young when this went down. I know obviously they were interested in building a stadium on the West Side, but it didn't go through.
I think, obviously everything at the end of the day the answer is going to be money, right? Someone that needed to be getting money didn't see the money. But I do think there were a lot of issues with that. Like, even when the Yankees were talking about it too. I think the biggest challenge is traffic and the way it was going to, how it was going to work. At the time, this has changed. At the time, the 7 train did not run all the way to the West Side, to like the way it runs now, all the way to the Javits Center. So there was that issue of like the 3 long block walk that would have still existed. But I think mostly it was a traffic issue. I mean, they already had unbearable traffic in that area anyway. And you have to have a real plan of how that would have worked. But even that, I don't think was the real stopper. I don't know the politics of it or the details of it, but just life experiences taught me it's about money. Yep. Somebody that needed to get benefit from the deal financially wasn't going to benefit enough and killed it.
All right. Peter S., legend in the chat, says it was because NYC didn't win their Olympic bid for 2012.
Well, that's very possible. Right, because if they were going to build in that area for the Olympics, then it would have made sense to make the financial commitment. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I was much younger when I remember the West Side Highway and all that good stuff. But it'd be nice for them to have their own stadium and something to call their own. I just don't know if I see them building another 100,000 seat arena like that close to each other. You know what I mean? Like, if the Giants stayed at MetLife and the Jets built one, let's say, a lot of people bring up, Queens over where by the Mets play. And if they do that soccer stadium, if they just make that, for NYCFC, if they expand it and make it 100,000 seat place, is it really worth it to have, that venue for what 10 games a year, including the preseason? And then, they can do concerts and stuff like that. But if there's one, we're gonna do one show at MetLife and one show there. I don't know. I just don't know if logistically they would ever find a way to make it work.
I have no problem sharing a stadium. It's just that build a better one. You're both 2 owners, and you're bringing in not 8 to 9 games a year. To combine, you're bringing in 16 to 18 games a year, plus potential playoffs. So you have that much more power out of usage of the stadium to make the city or the state money. So it's fine to stay together, but just invest more and put more heart and passion into it to give the fans a better stadium.
There you go.
Wherever it is.
I don't know if I don't know if this is serious and if I need to take offense to this or not, but I think we need to talk through it. Dano asked me, Matt, how old are you? 32? And then Matthew Smith follows it up. That's not the bad part. This is the bad part. He is 41.
Matthew Smith said he's
Do I look 41? Do I need a reality check for myself?
No, but Matthew Smith is really young, and when you're young, people that are older than you look older.
Okay.
So
I'm
imagine
29
him
for the record.
I mean, and Matthew Smith is not as young as he was when I first met him. He's no longer the guy who just graduated high school or college and who's 21 or whatever. I think he's probably 24, 25 now. So he should know better. But you definitely do not come off as 41. To me, you're still to me, you're still a young guy. Like like when you're my age, I see you as you're young. I'm probably your dad's age, Matt. So I mean, like to me, you're a young guy that like I'm excited for because I think you have your whole life in front of you, like as a young guy.
We are it's October. So yeah, we are 6 months, half a year away from 30. Which I don't know. You give it a few more months, and I might go through like some sort of psychotic episode by then.
You're a very mature 30.
Okay, I
very
appreciate
focused,
that.
Mature 30. We have a lot of 30-year-olds in a much better, different situations in their life, so that are not nearly as have a house, about to get married, about to start a family. Like a lot of 30-year-olds aren't there yet in this generation. So,
well, I appreciate that. Love that. Let's get back to the super chats. Just Win Jet says we should have a touchdown song / backing track to chant to. Isn't that what? Oh my God, what's his name? The coach from the 70s, Lou Holtz, tried to do. Didn't he try to write a song? I think we were talking about that on one of the Talkin' Jets episodes recently.
I just think that Jet fans are too macho to sing. Like if you like, it's like, and I understand where you're coming from, and I don't disagree with this suggestion at all. I don't disagree with it at all. I just think I'm just recognizing the challenge. The challenge is when you do a song or a chant, it's a very fine line to have it writing a really good one to incredibly cheesy and what a New Yorker would say is the word you're not allowed to say anymore. The G word that you're not allowed to say. But like that's, it's very easy to miss when you attempt to introduce a song like that and get that label. Like that's the G-est thing I ever heard in my life. So I just think it's a real challenge. I just think it's going to be our Jets chant forever. Like we score a touchdown, Jets, Jets. I think that's all it's ever going to be.
Whatever happens organically, just let it happen. That's my.
Yeah. And even the Jet chant, if you don't get enough people behind you, even that looks G.
We got time for a few more in here. Oreo says, Jeremy and Matt, what will the Jets record be at the end of this year? Without bias, I think the Jets finish 9-8 and miss the playoffs. The streak continues. Wow, that's a tough question. So that would be
impossible. It's impossible to do. It's impossible to do it without bias, because if I wasn't a Jet fan, I'd probably be like every other fan. I would just see it as some loser organization that I can't take seriously. But so it's impossible because I know the team so well, and I know what the team is capable of, because I know that the rest of the world just sees the Jets lost again. But I see a game that we should have won. I see a team that could have won the last 3 games. That could easily be one of the top teams in the NFL right now. I think, man, it would be so much easier to answer this question if we knew the result of the Pittsburgh game. If we beat Pittsburgh, I still think we could win 10, 11 games.
If they beat Pittsburgh, I'll say 10.
Yeah, that's where I am. I'm 10-7 if we beat Pittsburgh, even believing that we could be 11-6, 11-7, or 11-6. So I would believe 11-6, predict 10-7 if we beat Pittsburgh. But I think it's really hard to make that prediction right now. Right now, I'll say 9-8. I'll agree with that, or 10-7. But I think that that's going to change. If we lose to Pittsburgh, we're 9-8 or 8-9. If we beat Pittsburgh, we're 9-8. We're 10-7 or 11-6, in my opinion.
I like that. I'm hoping 10-7 or 11-6. That'd be my original prediction was 11-6. So if they somehow end up at that at season end, I'll be happy. I'll be happy.
Yeah, 11-6. 11-6 would mean that we beat Buffalo, and there's a strong possibility we won the division.
Yeah, I would say so. I think 11 wins gets this division. 9 might be enough in the AFC, though. There's a lot of teams in the middle right now.
It's just I'm trying so hard not to do it, by the way. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to start thinking about how many wins in playoffs because they just break our hearts. I said it to Greenman. I said it when we lost on Sunday that anybody was watching. I'm done with it. I'm done with the hope. I'm just going to sit there and watch each game and hope we win each game.
Now, we got a little carried, not we, but just in general, got a little carried away with the comments. We did have something else we wanted to get to, but I thought maybe a quicker version of this. 5 minutes here at the end, closing out the show. Are you in on the Jamal Adams reunion to the New York Jets, Jeremy?
I'm not going to be mad. I wouldn't be mad if they brought him in because he costs nothing. I would be mad if they brought him in. It's the opportunity cost. If we brought him in instead of someone real, if there was another safety available that's actually good, and we brought in Jamal Adams and didn't go for the safety that was actually good, I'd be pissed off. If they brought in Jamal Adams, I'd consider it bringing in a guy off the garbage heap. Like anybody that's thinking, oh my God, we have to get Jamal Adams, has not been paying attention. He was not a good safety last year. Some could argue he hasn't been good in 3 years. He certainly was not a good safety last year. Last year was the most evident because he was double-digit percentage, like 10, 11% in missed tackle rate. Like he's not a good. The only thing that was good about him as a safety, he was never good against the pass, was he was a good tackler. He was good against the run. He no longer was. He misses tackles. And this year he had a total of 4 tackles, 2 assists, 6 tackles that he was involved with at week 7 of the season. He was released by a horrible team in Jacksonville. Why did they grant him his release? Because they didn't care. Not only because they stink, but because there was nothing in their mind that he was part of the future. Is he better than Ashton Davis? I don't even know that he is.
I was gonna say the sad part is everyone will say to me, the people who got mad when I said please don't ask me about this was, oh well, Ashton Davis is terrible. I don't disagree with you. I don't think he's any good either. But have you watched any of the last 4 seasons for Jamal Adams? His only good year was his first year in Seattle. There, he had a solid season. He had 11 sacks. You know, it was good against the run. He got hurt in 2022, but he hasn't been the same guy in years. Number one, you know, he's 29 years old, doesn't look right. And then that's not taking into account all the things that he tried to do to get his way out of here. He blamed, it was everything in the world. It was Adam Gase.
Oh, by the way,
right here mentally.
It was the Titans that released him, right? Did
Yeah,
he go to Jacksonville first and get released? I don't know why they got in my head. Maybe it was just the Titans.
I don't know if he was with the Jacksonville this season, but it was Tennessee.
Okay, I'm confusing crappy teams.
Yeah, same difference. Playing the same, same division there.
Yeah,
I'm over it. I am. I think how he went out. That's it. Like you can never bring him back. And maybe it's a different conversation if we're having it in 2021 or 2022 when he's 27 and can maybe still be good. But he's been 29. He's 29 years old and has been bad for 4 years and is also an asshole. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. And if they bring him in, I'm not mad because it doesn't cost us anything, so I don't care. But to me, it's just I don't care. Like they brought in Jamal Adams. It doesn't move the needle at all for me. It doesn't. I don't feel that we're a better team with him. If anything, I'm concerned that he's going to try to screw up our locker room because he is a player of very poor character.
Yeah, I'm all set there on the Jamal Adams conversation. Did you see what I had to do to Green Bean for his Jamal Adams opinions?
You had to censor him probably because he was probably cursing every other word because Green Bean has known that Jamal Adams was a fraud since the day he left the Jets.
No, so Green Bean did quite the opposite, actually.
Yeah.
He said, you know what? I say the hell with it. Sign Jamal Adams for $1.4 million. Let him crash into the running lanes repeatedly. Yeah, who's with me? So he had to get blocked.
I remember this. I remember he had to be blocked. Yeah. He had to be being sarcastic because I mean the guy is nobody has bashed Jamal Adams more than Green Bean in the past 3 or 4 years.
That was incredible. Andrew says he's an asshole, but he can play the run and blitz. He did those things in 2021. It is not 2021 anymore.
He used to be able to play the run and play the blitz. He hasn't. You're in love with a player from what he did in 2021. 2022, 2023, he didn't do that well. It's like you have to look at the tape. You have to look at the player he was all of last year. He was not good against the run. He was not good against the blitz. He didn't do those things. It's not true. Look at the numbers. Look inside the numbers. Look at his PFF grades. It's not true. Like he wasn't.
The big one is missed tackle rate. 24% of his tackles last year, 20% this year.
That's insanely high. That's
insanely high. It's a small sample, obviously. Well, this year is a small sample. Last year was not a small sample. He played over 500 snaps last year.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And it's like, and if nobody would be saying, if his name wasn't Jamal Adams and he wasn't our former first round pick, nobody would care that he was released. Nobody would be saying, get him.
Why?
Like this is only because you're in love with a name. And I don't blame you. I get it. It's like Jamal Adams. You're thinking of the Jamal Adams that used to play for the Jets. It's not who he is anymore. No. He's a player that's at the end of his career retiring. He just isn't that player anymore. And it's sadly for him, I'm sad for any player, the reason he's gotten that bad that fast is because of injuries.
You're right. You're right. Injuries really played a big factor in it. That'll do it for us on this episode. We went over a little bit, but we got to get out of here. We got to hope that the Mets extend their series, Jeremy. That backs up against the wall here at 3-1. We got work to do.
Sounds good, man. Make sure everybody goes to Brooklyn Brothers Food Review. I'm going to try to get it out today, so look for it. It's going to be the Chicken Mac versus the Big Mac. See which one I like better.
I will be locked into that. I can tell you that much. Guys, that'll do it. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel, and we'll catch you next time.